Oh, this is quite loud. Good. I like it. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the session today, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly Side of Selecting Flutter. So my name is Rifat. I'm head of engineering here at Wolt, part of DoorDash, overseeing the teams that are looking into merchant apps for Wolt. A bit more into my background. I've been in engineering for quite many years. Lately, of course, more in the management domain, but previously had experiences with backend development and mobile and whatnot. But significant amount of time I spent in mobile development, working on iOS and Android applications with big code bases and companies like banks, airlines, and so on. So maybe a little bit of my thoughts around Flutter. I personally did not write a single line of code in Flutter that went on production and used by a user. I have personally always been skeptical about multi-platform technologies. Maybe some of you folks might even remember PhoneGap, for example. Anyone remembers? It's quite old, but yeah, some people, all these, yes. PhoneGaps or Xamarin's and React Natives and whatnot. Especially maybe looking back like 10 years ago, the multi-platform experience was not really good. If you ever use a PhoneGap app, I bet you wouldn't even call it an app, honestly speaking. A lot of things changed though. Of course, with React Native, a lot more production apps with huge volumes working flawlessly, and now we have Flutter in our hands. So I also been, of course, skeptical about Flutter, looking back on my previous experiences, but after joining Wolt, seeing what we have and what's cooking up in the domain, getting my hands dirty a bit as well. Honestly, I've been quite surprised to the upside. And I hope that I managed to remove my preconceived notions about multi-platform technologies. So maybe one thing I want to say, I think you might have seen like these type of talks a lot, right? There was one this morning as well. A lot of talks happen in the meetups. I wanted to talk as well, just to tell this Flutter move and about Flutter a bit more from a leadership perspective, but also how we can do a transition in an app that is on a huge scale, right? A lot of startups go use Flutter, maybe with Firebase, quite common approach, and we hear all those stories. But I wanted to come and tell this story from a scaling up perspective and betting on Flutter. So, just to say, like we're not going to be looking at any code today. I want to set the expectations right, but more about the decision-making and change management process when it comes to how we can take an app from Flutter. Sorry, how we can take an app from native into Flutter. And I heard that there was a session like maybe this morning or during the lunchtime with a very similar name. I hope you only got to hear about the bad and ugly sides of Flutter, so I can talk only about the good parts. So let's see if I'll be able to make that. Cool. So a bit about Wolt. I think it's good to understand the domain we're operating it. So Wolt, we are a delivery company, being basically focused on restaurant delivery. So basically, you sit on your couch, you make an order on your phone, a courier goes and picks it up and delivers it to your door. And when we look at our business today, we have the consumers, right? People sitting on their couch, checking the latest offerings, and then they make an order. So that's one app that we use, based on pretty much tailored to the consumers themselves. And then we have our courier partners who go and pick these orders up from the venues, deliver them all the way to the door of this customer. And then we also have, of course, our lovely merchants, right? People who are making these amazing food or preparing your grocery shopping basket. And this is the area where we are investing in Flutter. So we have 3 different app domains at Wolt, and of course they need to work together with each other when it comes to completing the whole picture. And in the merchant domain, we're going to be doing more with Flutter. So why we're here in a position where we have to even talk about Flutter? A little bit of background context. The way that we opened up the discussions was that we had an existing iPad app that's been used by our restaurants mainly in their stores. Maybe you go to a restaurant, you might see these dock devices, right? That's been exclusively an iPad app with Swift. And we wanted actually some flexibility. Why not give Android as well, right? There's a lot of power in there. We didn't want to be locked up into one ecosystem. So we wanted Android for flexibility. And well, like in the end, from a usability standpoint, like we could pretty much have the same app with the same UI and UX, just do the same thing over on Android and make it happen. But interesting thing is, we had another very basic app as well called Picker app. Very phone specific. The UI is very tailored to small screen devices as well. This has been used mainly by our retail partners. You can say supermarkets, for example. So the use case is quite different with this one. Like in a restaurant, you get an order, you get a printout, it goes to the kitchen, 2 burgers, 1 Coca-Cola, and then they pack the order in, and then it's ready for delivery. However, in a supermarket case, of course, maybe you might have 50 items in your basket, and somebody literally needs to go around the shop, pick them up into a basket, and mark them, pick. So it's a very different flow. So that's why we had this application, and we did this one in Flutter. Back then, this was a kind of bet that we were doing. Let's expand onto the retail domain and see what happens. And we wanted to go fast. We did this with Flutter, and it worked very well. Like we had literally no complaints on any fronts, and a lot of people actually thought that the app was just native app. So basically, then we come to the point where let's just try to scale the existing app into being the merchant app where you can do everything. You want to go do picking on your hand. You want to have it docked on the at the front of the store. You could do anything, and we can have very different functionalities in it, support different features based on form factors and whatnot. And this is an effort that is ongoing at the moment as we speak. We have some folks here as well who are working on this transition. So, like, of course, it sounds easy, right? We say, there's already a Flutter app, let's do more of that. Well, maybe coming back to my tripod analogy at the beginning, for our business to work flawlessly, all these 3 applications need to work flawlessly. If one fails, the camera goes down, the show is over. So it's a very important domain to make sure we have a stable app that we can live for very long times to come. Well, how did we come to this decision then, right? Some of the known factors that we already had was, well, we knew that the speed of development with Flutter was very good. We've seen that in the Picker app. It kind of gave us a chance to, pilot with Flutter, actually, and that was super cool. And then next thing we knew, the retail was going good, and there was no reason for this Picker app to go away. So we knew we were going to do more, and that we will keep maintaining this application. And of course, if you can do one app, why would we want to do 3 with 3 different repositories if it is possible? Thinking more for the long term, of course. But also we know that there were many question marks around Flutter as a technology, especially as I called out earlier, a lot of preconceived notions, right, including myself, that I had to overcome. That hey, cross-platform technologies can actually work, and we believed in Flutter, and we said, why not? Also, another big question mark we had was about finding the right talent. Right? Flutter has been around for the last couple of years, been picking up, but you don't necessarily go and find a Flutter engineer with 10 years of experience. So that was another factor. But if I just like put it on one word, like having Flutter experts and enthusiasts really help us make this. We knew that we have people in the company who are excited about Flutter, who love Flutter, and who would love to do more with Flutter. So, of course, in the end, we said, you know what, let's take this bet. Let's go at it, right? Let's go on this journey. And the car was ready to leave, and we could start with the transition. So, of course, as I said, from a niche a use case to covering all of the merchant app use cases, we went from 2 engineers to 8 in a weekly contribution. I think the number might even be higher lately, but at least we have at least 8 people. And that's a different game when it comes to how we work with each other, how we code, how we architecture our app, and all the communication overheads that can come with it as well. So maybe some of you might know about this Ringelmann effect. So the more people you add, it's not a linear line on how the outcome is. There's always a loss in there that's due to, could be motivational problems or process problems and well, whatnot you experience. But one important way to overcome this, of course, when we're 2, like things can go very fast, right? The 2 engineers, you can work together and take on certain domains and go. But when you're 8, well, how do you work together? And how can we actually decrease this process loss? Well, there's one way that can help you decrease that, which is actually setting a clear vision and goals and targets, and together with that, a good cohesive strategy that everybody can follow. So a bit more on the changing scale here. So we actually went from 180,000 lines of code to around 650,000 lines of code in only 12 months. Like more than quadrupling, basically, what we had. It's massive growth in a very short amount of time. Of course, on the other front, we also, when we have 8 engineers contributing code base, context can be lost and whatnot. So there's a lot of quality focus that we start to put into place. And we made a lot of efforts in saying, you know, 2 engineers, we can go in, we have a QA, but now we're a bigger team, we're adding a lot of functionalities in, and it calls for a different game. And then we also started investing a lot in our test coverage. Improving that by around 30 percentage points in just 5 months. And I can tell it really calmed a lot of things down when it comes to fearlessly going into the code base and making a lot of changes. And like imagine like 6 of these engineers we had, they've just been introduced to the code base, and some of them into Flutter just in the recent year. So, of course, with this one, it's not only the numbers, right? There's a lot going on at the background, whether that's release processes, hotfix processes, how do we do PRs, and so on. A lot of discussions and team building goes in throughout this journey. So I want to talk a little bit on the app architecture. We had a lot of conversations internally. You know, the code base is growing. We're adding more and more and more stuff, but what is the architecture that we believe in, that we want to follow collectively together, right? Going back to the previous slides, to decrease that gap that we're creating, to decrease that inefficiency. And pretty much the team created a good comprehensive RFC and some pilots on how a common feature implementation could look like. So it is actually helping us a lot today to stay on an aligned course when it comes to building this Flutter application. But one good thing that we talked a lot about there is like, okay, what do we want to optimize for, right? You can pick any app architecture. Just put 3-4 letters in, and here we go. You have a new new architecture and try to follow because it looks cool on the paper. But it's important that we are deliberate on understanding what are the factors that we want to optimize our decision for. So one was, of course, development velocity, time to production, super important, right? How long would it take for an engineer to come in, pick a task, and get onboarded, and then finish it and have it at the hands of the users? Other one, tons of engineers contributing to the same repository. I said, if you're 2 or 3 engineers, it's a different game, and if you're more than 10, then a lot of structure needs to be in a good place so everybody can follow, and tens of people can follow and do it together. Multiple teams easily owning features in the new app and in this repository. As we're growing, there might be more functionalities coming in, so we need to create the code base in a way that multiple teams can contribute to that. Of course, easy to add full test coverage through unit and widget tests. While the complexity grows, we really need to have great test coverage in place so that anybody who's coming in can fearlessly go change stuff, knowing that, if it breaks, you're probably going to get an error in one of your builds or in one of your test cases and whatnot. You won't be able to merge it in the first place. And then this is one of the ways that we had the discussions on having the layer structure. I'm not going to go into the details of these. I think the picture is quite self-explaining, very similar to some of common Android patterns as well. But we also had discussions around maybe potentially having these layers on the future domain as well when it comes to thinking of the growth. How many people here joined the Rise and Fall of Future Teams by Denny yesterday? Yeah? Could you relate to this a bit? The growth? Yeah? So pretty much what Denny was saying, was talking about was you do actually need cross-functional teams that are focused on features versus domain-specific teams. There's a Flutter engineering team, backend engineering team, and whatnot. And how that really defines the way that you implement your features, and you implement you probably settle on the architecture of your application. As the Conway's law suggests, how we're organized is going to have an important impact on how we structure our code base. But the other way around, of course, how we structure our code base should also have a good impact on how we are forming our teams and growing. So another challenge we faced was responsive UI. Of course, if you're building something from scratch, you can think about all the cases from the get-go. But if you already have an app on mobile that's already been optimized for mobile, well, good luck with scaling that up. So there's a lot of challenges that we face. It's not only the form factor challenge per se, but also how this app would be used in mobile in more different circumstances versus a topless restaurant dock versus somebody holding the phone going around in the grocery store. So there's a lot of UX challenges that we had to think about. And we had to change all of the information architecture of the app on the fly. So for example, one of the challenges was how we also do bottom sheets. So Çağatay will be speaking more about this very subject right after my session. I believe it's in the room right next to us. I would totally recommend going there, and I believe there are going to be some interesting news coming out there as well. And then, of course, building the team. Finding experienced Flutter engineers is hard, right? Given the recent adoption. We don't have Flutter for the last 10 years picked up by big names and thousands or tens of thousands of engineers. I believe many of you here will be new to this platform, maybe 1, 2, 3 years or 4 or 5 max. So it's been hard, I must admit. But I can already see surprisingly more people with Flutter experience, even compared to just 1 year ago when we started certain hunts. And seeing all you people here really makes me believe more in the technology. And we're seeing that the community is picking up. But of course, it's a trailing effect, having the right people around in the market. So the things that we are proud of, let me see. Yes. So the things that we're proud of in our journey. Engagement from our engineers. We love that. We have very good expert engineers who were really invested in Flutter. That helps big time. And also we had engineers who were happy to learn new technologies. And some of them are actually in this room today, coming from iOS background, learning Flutter. So we're super happy and proud of that. I mean, of course, I need to admit, like some people didn't want it, right? And of course, we found them new places within the company. We have a lot of applications, as you could see, to continue on the iOS journey. But I was particularly happy that we had multiple people who wanted to do the transition, learn a new technology, and that we could support it. So also proud. We're also proud that we're not able to make bold decisions. I mean, in the end, of course, we know Flutter is stabilizing as we're going, but it's in the end a bold decision where we're changing the tires of one of the legs of our tree pod to Flutter. So we're basing our future with that. Of course, contributing to Flutter's adoption as well by open source contributions, talks, and whatnot. Super happy and proud. On the other hand, also creating deliberate architecture and testing strategy. I'm particularly super proud of. As said, going from 2 engineers to 8 in a short period of time, quadrupling the code base very quickly. We really needed to make sure there was a good architecture in place that everybody has a buy-in for, but also great quality strategy based more on the automation rather than manual testing to pretty much bounce back the complexity that we were introducing. On the other hand, of course, very happy that we lifted up our test coverage quite quickly. So, things we got wrong. Finding our new Flutter team members, of course, we got a few iOS engineers who got into Flutter, learned that very quick, picked it up super well. But as said, finding the right talent takes a while. And of course, Flutter hiring is not something that many people are used to, right? iOS, Android, they've been around for 10, 15 years. There are already a lot of processes and interview materials and so on. So we had to come up with those things. So it was quite some effort, but it played out in the end. Investing too much into integration tests and creating a diamond instead of a pyramid. I think this was one of the things that I believe we really got wrong from the get-go. I think we started our focus into this area more around the fact that, hey, we want to do less manual testing, which is great, right? Yeah, makes sense. So what do? Oh, let's do integration tests, maybe do testing end-to-end flows. Yeah, that works. However, we should have taken one step back and see, hey, what do we want actually? Hey, we want a robust application that works flawlessly and tons of engineers can come in and contributing fearlessly. That's what we want. It's not about the manual testing, integration, unit. Those are all just tools. So when we took that step back, then it was clear, hey, you know what? We need to have more pre-merged flows, and that comes with, of course, writing more cheaper tests, both from a writing perspective, but also from maintenance point of view. We reverted our course quite quick, and we're going in the right direction, but we definitely started off with the wrong foot. So if we could do a time travel, if we would go back 1 year ago, what we would do differently? I would definitely start this transition earlier. It took us a while trying out Flutter, talking about it, where we're heading, and whatnot. Of course, having the Picker app helped us a lot. But looking back, we could have definitely started this transition even earlier. Also, finding similar stories, touch basing with companies that have big scale applications with tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of daily users. we've seen a lot of stories about how apps started off from the ground with Flutter, especially within startup community. Just hope that going back 1 year that we could have heard more of these stories. Maybe there were, we just couldn't find, but hoping that we're also contributing to those stories as we're speaking today. And securing our architecture and testing strategy, we could have done this a little bit sooner as well. We got it right in the end, so I'm not too unhappy, but definitely something we would have started earlier going back. So if you are actually trying to build a Flutter application where you're envisioning tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of users on a daily basis, where tens of engineers are contributing to the repository, definitely get your testing strategy right from the get-go and definitely get an alignment on the architecture. Before I'm coming to the end of this presentation, I thought, coming from leadership perspective here a bit, I know as engineers, we usually get attached to a technology, right? We're Flutter experts, or we are Kotlin Android experts, or Swift experts, and whatnot. I wanted to give a little bit of a glimpse from a leadership perspective, so you can actually use these pointers when it comes to having discussions in your company about if you want to move to Flutter or not. And maybe for the Android people in the room, I also see some darker blue badges here. That means you come from DroidCon, so maybe some of the pointers that can help you as well. So, the things that made our decision easier, definitely starting with the Flutter adoption worldwide. It's been going up, of course, in the recent years, but especially in the last 12 months, as we started this journey as well, the adoption is going very, very well. Google using Flutter in its own apps, of course, plays a huge role, as the very people building this technology are also using their own technology. That's good. Also, see some more high volume apps that we're seeing on Flutter, pretty much in the App Store and Play Store. More and more applications are coming in, as I said, with tens of or hundreds of thousands of users on a daily basis. That shows that the industry is really picking it up. And of course, the speed of development. This is just my personal taste and opinion. I'm happy to be thrown over the fence for that, but I kind of get the vibe that doing the same thing pretty much in Flutter versus on Android with Kotlin, even that comparison, I kind of have the vibe that with Flutter and Dart, you're able to go even quicker. But that's just my opinion and taste. Please come find me if you have different opinions. I'd love to hear. Of course, the look and feel, super important. Like in the end, I gave you the example of PhoneGap. Horrible, seriously. Cool technology. Yes, we have one code and it works on multiple devices. Technology, let's go, great. But in the end, users are getting it on their hands, and it's quite horrible. So, well, we haven't solved any problem of a customer. But I think with Flutter, that's where we have a good edge, a great look and feel. Of course, also solid performance, especially compared to other multi-platform technologies, tied with how the UI rendering works. The non-dependency to OS operating system UI components, with iOS updates or Android updates and so on. You don't have to follow this catch-up game that's there, as the UI is rendered by Flutter's own engine. That's awesome. The community, a lot of people here today, super happy. More and more Flutter people are getting all across, and community is building up. That's great. And of course, Flutter experts in our teams. That always helps. Right? If you're in a team of 10 Android engineers who really love working with that, or iOS or web, whatnot, if you don't have somebody enthusiastic about Flutter, you probably won't even have the discussion of going to Flutter. So, and I just wanted to show this one. This is something that Çağatay sent me. I believe this was around last year, October or November. How Flutter has been picking up. So it's good to back things up with numbers, right? So this is a percentage of Stack Overflow questions that month. So you see how the gap has been closed. I haven't seen the latest number. This is from 8 months ago. I wouldn't be too surprised if it's flipped around. Maybe not. You tell me if you find it. I'll be happy to hear. So thank you all for listening, and it's time for Q&A.